My entire life, I knew that I was born to do something in the health and fitness industry. When I was young, I played every sport imaginable, and that took me all the way up to playing football in college till one day I realized I was not going into the NFL. At that point, I realized if I can't get to the NFL, I'm going to help people get into the NFL. So I became a collegiate strength and conditioning coach. Now, there's several steps and ladders that you have to go through. I started off as a student strength and conditioning coach at the University at Buffalo, where it is winter 9 months out of the year. So when I graduated, I told myself that I was going to get as far away from New York as I could, going south. And that ended up having to be the University of Hawaii. So for the next 10 years, I was a graduate assistant strength and conditioning coach at the University of Hawaii, living the life, living the dream. Imagine for my 32nd birthday, my mother, who lived in Colorado, said she was going to come out and celebrate it with me. She comes out, and we have a wonderful time. The entire week is like a dream. We go hiking, we go to the beach, we go to eat at some of the best restaurants in paradise. My birthday was unbelievable. Right before my mom is about to leave, she sits down and tells me that she's been diagnosed with cancer. Now, let me address the elephant in the room. My mother does not look sick. In this picture, she's 5'4", 130 pounds. She exercises maybe 3-4 times a week, goes hiking, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. Her diet is anything a panel of 100 doctors would nod their head at and say, that's a healthy diet. But yet, my mother is sick. So at that point, I did whatever any good son would do. I moved from Hawaii to Colorado, and I went through 4 rounds of chemotherapy and 8 sessions of radiation with my mother. And as she was going through the treatment, I took it upon myself as a health professional to pound the pavement and research where she had gone wrong, how she got sick. The more research I did, the more I found out that cancer has one primary energy source, and that's sugar. So I slowly started to cut any and all sugar out of my mother's diet as she was going through these treatments. Anything that could turn into sugar in the body, and more importantly, sugar in itself, was taken out. And after 6 months of going through the treatments and adjusting her diet, the doctor sat her down and declared her cancer-free. Shortly after that, I ended up getting a job in South Florida, so I left the comforts of my mom's home in Colorado to embark on a new journey. But I checked up with her consistently. Every week we talked, and I said, Mom, how's your diet? You're cutting the sugar out? Yeah, well, I have a little bit here and a little bit there. Sometimes I have some fruit with lunch. Sometimes I'll have a little bit of dessert with dinner. And I told her, Mom, you can't do that. You are susceptible. You are already a statistic. You need to cut sugar out completely. And she tried as hard as she could, but still she would slip up every now and then. Approximately 12 months after my mother was declared cancer-free, I received a phone call. And I can remember it to this day. I could tell in her voice instantaneously. She didn't even have to tell me. The cancer came back. This time, it came back with a vengeance. There were tumors in her leg. There were tumors surrounding her neck. Small tumors on her spine and on her kidneys. So once again, we pound the pavement, and she flew to Jacksonville to some of the best doctors for the type of cancer that she had. I drove up to Jacksonville, and the doctors told us to try certain chemotherapies, and let's hope this works. Hope was all we had to go on. And it's sad to say that hope did not work. 4 months after we tried, once again, very diligently to get rid of my mother's cancer, she passed away. Now, to this day, people look at me, and when they hear this story, their first words out of their mouth are one of an apology. I'm sorry your mother died from cancer. I'm sorry to hear that. And I look at them and I say, my mother beat cancer. What she couldn't beat was sugar. So in the 20 years that I've been in the health and fitness profession, I've come down to the conclusion that there are two maxims when it comes to nutrition. Number one is what you eat affects how you think. And number two is when you alter your food, you alter your health. We're going to dig into the science behind that right now, beginning with the enteric nervous system. The enteric nervous system is often called our second brain. It's located solely in our gut, and it contains approximately 200 to 600 million neurons, more than the brain and more than the spinal cord. What's even more shocking is that the enteric nervous system sends 10 times more information from your gut to your brain than the brain sends to your gut. What you eat affects how you think. Think of it this way. If you eat 1 gram of sugar, your enteric nervous system is telling your brain it wants 10 times that. So when I tell the story of my mother, most people look at me and say, man, it sounds like you're kind of throwing mom under the bus here. And I tell them, my mother never had a chance. Because most of the companies that are making the processed foods that we eat today are making them to be biologically addictive. You can't quit them if you tried. How many of us in here sat down and said, oh, shouldn't really be eating this ice cream now, should I? Shouldn't have that last cookie. I shouldn't have one more. But what the heck? I'll go ahead and grab just one more. According to data presented by Congress, 30% of Americans today are obese. Out of these 30%, 80% are what we call metabolically ill, which is about 57 million people. Metabolic illness is a term doctors created to tell you, we don't know why you're sick, but you're definitely sick. Now, in this case, you can look at the obese people and realize why they're sick. You're sick because you're fat because you're sick. What's a little bit more troubling is that out of the 70% of Americans that are not obese, 40% of them have the same illnesses as the 57 million people who are metabolically ill. They just don't have the accompanied weight gain. This was my mother. She didn't look sick, but she was. Inside, she was dying. This constitutes 67 million people in the United States, which means there are more healthy-looking sick people than there are obese-looking sick people. This gets me to my second maxim. When you alter your food, you alter your health. Our gut microbiome is made of microscopic bacterial organisms, independent living creatures that rely on us for their survival. In return, they can either keep us healthy or they can make us sick. Your body is colonized by roughly 100 trillion microbes, which outnumbers our own cells by 10 to 1. There's more of them than there are of us. For every human gene in your body, there are at least 360 microbial ones. What you eat affects how you think, and when you alter your food, you are going to alter your health. Now, these microorganisms are either going to keep you healthy or they're going to make you sick. If you eat the wrong types of foods, the bad guys make you unhealthy. If you eat the right types of foods, you're going to be healthy. Nowadays, we're going to sit down in the morning to processed foods. We're going to sit down to cereals containing high fructose corn syrup, trans fats for lunch, something called yellow number 40 in our mac and cheese for dinner. Everything is an invention. Food no longer comes from farms, it comes from factories. There is a war going on right now between companies for the size of your stomach. They do not care about your health. They care about profits. And all of these foods are made to be biologically addictive. As a result, the diseases that we have, or dis-ease that we have in the United States, is quite profound. It's stated that 90% of us are living with parasites or worms in our gut that alter the way we think and feel on a daily basis. 70% are living unknowingly with a dangerous yeast overgrowth that are creating a multitude of autoimmune diseases doctors have no idea how to figure out. 60% of us unknowingly live with a thyroid issue that's going to affect your metabolism. This is where we go on the diet roller coaster. We lose 20 pounds, we gain 30. We lose 30, we gain 40. And the reason being is we are dealing with life, and life wants to live. So when you alter the foods you eat, and these guys don't get their food, they're going to come back with a vengeance. So we lose a little bit of weight, and they sit and plan and plot and strike as soon as you are weak, and it's 11 p.m., and you just want one piece of candy. And all of a sudden, there we go. Right back down the roller coaster, gaining more weight. Everything goes right out the window. 30% of Americans are now diabetic, which means that we need synthetic hormones in order to eat like a normal person. And 1 in 5 of us has a food sensitivity to a so-called healthy food that we have no idea about. We just deal with it. Right before my mother passed away, I was sitting with her in her hospice room, and she looked up at me and she said, "Chris, I want to share a quote with you that I want you to live by." She knows that I love quotes. She looked at me and she said, "It's a Chinese proverb that simply states, 'Die healthy.'" So for the past 7 years, I made it my mission to create the best diet system I call the Rewind Diet Program. And what I've started to do is help people that are both overweight, looking to lose weight, and also help people that are metabolically ill. The people that don't feel very good on a day-to-day basis, that when you look at them, they don't need to lose weight, but they just don't feel right. They don't feel human. My first case study is Jonathan. He came to me, he was 53 years old, approximately 215 pounds. And he said, "Chris, I just don't like how I feel. I know I need to lose weight. I have high blood pressure, high cholesterol. And things are getting so embarrassing that I couldn't even bend over and tie my shoes yesterday morning. I had to have my wife do it for me." Jonathan got on my system, and within 3 months, he was down to 165 pounds. He said it was the easiest diet that he had ever been on, so much so that he didn't even feel like he was on a diet. What you eat affects how you think. And when you alter your food, you alter your health. There are 3 primary rules that I have on my diet. Number 1 is eat the plants that come from the ground. Number 2 is eat the animals that eat the plants that come from the ground. And number 3 is drink water. Our second case study is Andrea. She came to me at 30 years old, metabolically ill. She didn't need to lose weight, but she didn't like how she felt. She was on medication for depression, on medications for anxiety, and then 2 different medications for irritable bowel syndrome, which is whenever you eat something, you get this really bad gut distension, so much so like it feels like someone just socked you in the stomach. She had some other hair and skin issues as well. So as we altered the foods that she ate, she started to think differently, and her irritable bowel syndrome went away as well. 3 months later, she didn't need any of the medications she was taking anymore. Her outlook on the world completely changed. Depression lifted, Anxiety was near or next to nothing. And she had also lost about 10 to 15 pounds, which was primarily due to inflammation. Now, once again, Andrea was trying to follow as healthy a diet as possible. She was eating the granola bars and the potato chips and the things that said all natural or organic. I'll tell you right now, guys, you don't need a company, you don't need a factory to tell you that food is all natural. It should be self-evident. But this is how we're fooled. My third case study was one of my toughest, Josh. Josh came to me, he was 28 years old, a very high performer in mergers and acquisitions, and he told me, Chris, I can't focus anymore, I can't think. I know it's probably because I gained some weight and I'm a little bit heavy, but what does that have anything to do with how we think? So I described to him my program, I told him I could help him, and he jumped on board. Not only did he lose 50 pounds, but he looks 10 years younger, and he told me that he is sharper and more focused than ever. If you are dealing with any of these issues, if you're dealing with the brain fog, if you're dealing with the lethargy, if you're getting sick 4, 5, 6 times a year, no matter how much vitamin C you take, if you can't figure out why you don't feel the way you want to feel, you need to contact me. You need to contact me so I can help you reverse disease, lose the weight, and more importantly, so I can help you die healthy. Thank you.